Program start on page 43. One of the long-tail McLaren F1 GTR BMWs, the Davidoff car, based at Le Yeah, it's been dormant, hasn't it, since the early 70s, that it's been freshly repaired and restored. Here. This is going to be a quick run, I think, Marcus. Judging by the attitude of the car on its approach to the start line, just generating some rear tyre temperature. It's hunkered on down, it's got plenty of downforce, suspect Big Cat already into the first part of the first two corners. The long double apex right turns it in, just clicks the glass on the way in. Justin knows every inch of this course, as Marcus said many times, the best time of the day. Olga comes howling over the brow into Malcolm hard on the brake. Won't be one of the fastest, still be pretty donkey. Through the brick wall, the car, remember, and the driver's GoodWood house is not very wide, dominated by the big bales either side of the course. And already flying through the uphill left-hander and across the line, he stops the clock 53.5 at 100 miles an hour across the line. Where goes the X4 Leman. do. And since then, we've had an excellent amount of tail wagging, cars sideways everywhere. Steve Smith was incredible in the 260. Thank you guys up on Supercar Run. And first car away will be the Bugatti Chiron, the extraordinary new machine from Bugatti. Joining me in the commentary box, as ever, Matt Pryor from Autocar Magazine. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Here we are again with the greatest, the most expensive, the fastest, the most exclusive, and all other superlatives. Yeah, and all others. And they don't start with anything much quicker than the new Chiron, do they? Which, because you thought the Veyron was not fast enough. And that's his production of Bugatti has got the next generation car, which still uses an 8-litre W12 quad-turbo engine, but top speed is up to over 260 miles an hour. Does it share anything with the original Veyron? Well, they say not very much, and it's developed from it, but you might as well consider it a all-new car, given that now, when the Veyron came out, it had 1,001 horsepower, if you remember, but now this is up to 1,500 horsepower. But it's one of the limits now of what tyres can take, and also where you can drive it at its top speed. There are not many places where you can get up to it aside from sort of someone's own test track. It's an example, isn't it, of the supercar concept so much alive and well. Yeah, the bubble has not yet burst. No, it hasn't. No, and in terms, this sort of horsepower race hasn't stopped either. Every time a supercar comes out, it has more power than the last one, and that is because one Lamborghini engine told me that because acceleration above 200 kilometers an hour starts to tail off unless you have an awful lot. Anyway, so whether you've got 1,500 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower, up to sort of 100 miles an hour doesn't make a huge amount of difference because you're limited to what cars can put on the ground. Engineering marketing, isn't it? Yeah, and I think that the original was brought out because of that. It was also don't forget the idea that you would have this standard of golf, but would also do 250 miles an hour and 1,000 horsepower. Is it true that Bugatti would not have made any money? I would be surprised if they don't sell loads of them, and even though they eventually became £1.5 million a piece for some of the later special editions, they had to. It's a mammoth engineering project, and the Volkswagen Group have the capability to do that. There are other supercar manufacturers who come along and try it on, and don't quite get there. And if you I think so, yeah, absolutely. Especially now, the last few years has seen classic cars and supercars go, really off the scale. There are some cars here that are built in very limited numbers. The Aston Vulcan is one coming past now. They've only made 24, and I think even though they're £1.5 million plus local taxes, you'll never lose a bean on it. No, exactly. It's a sort of it's an arrive and drive type concept, isn't it? Where they look after for you, and you go and they do. There was a track day at Silverstone on Wednesday with some of them. Aston have built all 24. Vulcans already. It's got an 800 horsepower. You turn up. You can take it away if you want to. Ferrari have a sort of FXX program where they sell that car, and then you sort of look after the cars yourself. Aston are prepared to look after it, but if you want to take it away and look after it yourself, you can do them. And they're essentially road cars with tax discs, racing cars with tax discs, aren't they? Yeah, well, I mean the Vulcan doesn't even have a tax disc, although I believe our own it feels every inch a racing car, but with the sort of fit and finish and interior. The great Aston we saw the GT8 just moves the Vantage concept. And this is one of those. New models in a great hurry. They're also introducing these sort of special edition limited run models which sell out very quickly. So all sorts of wonderful machines, some of which we're seeing for the very first time in public. That's really the sort of essence of the festival of speed, isn't it? It is, in terms of the supercar element. These things have not been seen in public before in many cases. No, indeed. There are an awful lot of cars making a debut this weekend, and it has become, GoodWood has become, for that reason, I think, the current British motor show, effectively. Yeah, so there are lots of cars, not all supercars, but in the core military go making its this weekend, and it is the place to see, and all the moving drive new cars. We joke every year, don't we? Exactly. And there are other motor shows available, but you can tell which show manufacturers like because they think it's good value for them, and you can see that from the amount of new cars they get launched. Crossing the line. Is that a normal new car? It's a derivative of the Hurricane. It's aviation inspired, so they're not making very many, but it's got details inside. But basically, mechanically, it's the same as the standard Hurricane. Alpine, the car that is making, the company's making a lot of noises in the back. Yeah, finally making a great comeback. Taking charge of it, and the new car will be about 1,100 kilos, which is really, really exciting. So she'll probably
he's going to shit himself.
So it's really, the lovely thing about it is it's small, it's light, it's agile, it looks surprised what an Alpine should be. It's coming down. Yeah. These little low capacity engines that don't weigh anything are very powerful now. Yeah, they are. Yeah, there'll be a Porsche 718 Boxster S coming up the hill at some point, and that now has a 2.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder rather than the old 3.4 litre classic. It makes an awful lot more power than before, but does 37 to the gallon, which the old one did not. And that is the way of things in the drive for improved economy and emissions and better air quality. Engine sizes are coming down, and as a result, come down as well. On screen, the Rolls-Royce, the Ray black badge. Yeah, that's clearly a special limited edition of a car built across the road. Indeed, yeah, as if the Wraith wasn't, special enough already. The black badge is, an even more personalisable program. Has a bit more power, and it's got some suspension and handling features that go quite briskly away, actually. But it will, I think it will always be a lot of money. With the regular car. It doesn't matter what they do, does it? These guys, they will sell these cars before they make them. They announce a limited edition. It's quite a good place to be, and if you are one of those car makers who can do it, I think Ferrari were the original and masters at it. But other brands, I think McLaren and Aston in particular, have started to realise that actually you can do that. And even Porsche, who was sort of slightly wary of doing it for a long time, became a GT4 and now the 911R, and have found that they will sell out very quickly. And then you've got to decide who you sell them to. Do you just open the order books and say, and then somebody says, well, actually, I've had 5 of your cars already, should I not give some cars priority? And you can see how it develops into this program where people effectively are invited before the car's even announced to see whether they want. They're making it in very small numbers, and they've had tens of thousands of valid applications. Who do they sell them to? Well, exactly, and because what you don't want to sell them to is people who are going to buy them and make a buy them. You want to sell them to. How do you stop that? Well, I don't know. Well, that's without a history of knowing who buys your cars and how long they keep them, that's difficult. And Ford's last car of that ilk was the GT. Quite how you decide who gets first dibs is a tough one, I think, and you do risk upsetting people, even if you do operate these lists where you go to preferred buyers. Is the 10-year-old GT still an appreciating asset? Would I have to pay more for that? I'm not entirely sure. There was a time when it wasn't. It went down, because I think it was about 140. Probably on the way back up, like all rare and classic cars. And it was, the real key to it. It was a great car to drive, and that is always the sort of defining factor when it comes. I've got to talk about BMW. We just saw the M4 GTS on the screen. Centenary of BMW, they're represented in a big way. They are the festival of speed. The M4 GTS pretty much a track-focused sort of everyday solution. Yeah, you kind of sort of think of it as BMW's equivalent of a Porsche 911 GT3 effectively. So it's much more hardcore. It's got a lot of weight taking out and more power. Panera has spot. It does. Yeah, it's a unique machine, isn't it? It is. Yeah. It is. It's called it sort of developed from a GT4. From a GT4 race program, but the road car makes rather a lot more power than the race car did. I think the race car's about 460 horsepower. The road car is supposed to have about 600 or something, but not right now. There are internal differences, but yeah, there will be a lot of electronic differences as well. But yeah, there are internal differences, and in fact, if you want a bit less power, the nice thing is that you can tweak it so that the response is a bit faster than a higher revving or a higher powered engine from the same output. Now in the P1, which also has a 3.8 litre twin turbo V8, you can feel that sort of torque. You get an awful lot of power from the turbocharged engine. And you can fill that with the fact that it's a hybrid, it's got an electric motor. The 650 and 570 do without that. But I think the 570 is, for me, the sweet spot in the range at the moment. Yeah. It's definitely done because you can see the family resemblance. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, they're the same but different. They are, yeah. And they're still, it's easy to forget because of how many cars they've released in a short space of time. They're still a very in this form, although they made the Mercedes McLaren SLR, and they made the F1 before that, in this current form as a production so they've come a long way in a very short space of time. Another a different McLaren altogether on the hill. In fact, we've got 3 on the hill. Yeah, we've got a 6.5 long tail, which is one of these little additions that we were talking about that you get invited to drive. That is a Can-Am version of the 650 Spider. There's going to be 50 of those. Absolutely. Should be papaya orange, that one. Machine on the screen now. Yeah, that is. You're used to seeing this car effectively with no roof. It is a KTM Crossbow or Expo. They don't mind whichever you call it, but which is began life as an all carbon fibre tubbed 2-seat roadster. It'd be much better as a GT4 race car if they put a roof on it. So it now has one, and it looks rather better actually. It looks really good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I didn't recognise it. No. But it looks like a proper aero package now. And if you drive the Roadster, there is quite a lot of wind buffeting compared to some of its rivals. But it's an interesting they toe into making cars with sort of moderate success, and I think they're sort of wondering what to do with it. Briefly, we saw the view on the screen, and that's got yeah, that one. Yeah, it's going to be trying to go quite fast in this weekend. Yeah, he would do. Yeah, he's a young racing driver. Well, yeah, this is the sort of R version, so it is a more track-focused version than the regular one. So instead of its usual 200 and something horsepower, it now makes 305. The Praga R1R on the screen looks essentially like a cross between a Grandad. It's an interesting company, it's a Slovakian company. You might not know much about, but they haven't made a road car for 68 years. But before that, they were reasonably prolific. They make carts, they make championship-winning carts, and they've got some aerospace experience as well. So there's by no means a new startup. And I think from what I've read, I haven't driven it, but from what I read about the Praga, it's a proper thing. It's the BAC mono, isn't it? It must be Ollie Webb at the wheel. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, these are the race cars for the road batch, aren't they? Most of these coming through at the minute, so they will all be going pretty quickly. The mono as quickly as any, I suspect, because
in its layout, it's very much like a single-seater race car. It's got one seat in the middle, hence the name of the mono. It's got double wishbones front and rear and a longitudinally mounted engine with a gearbox behind it. So it is, in terms of mechanical layout, it's pure race car.
I see Honda NSX. Did I see Mark 1 and Mark 2 together?
Yeah, the Mark 1 the new one is still on the line. Let's hope it's coming around it. And yet we've got this earlier one. I think it's down in my record, the 1990 one, but I'm not sure whether it is or not actually. Looks like it's like a later one to me. And that is, the NSX is back after a prolonged and too long absence.
Yeah, a car that 25 years ago or more was developed by Ayrton Senna.
Yeah, and it really changed the face of the supercar. It became the daily usable supercar. Visibility was brilliant. Engine throttle response was great. You could drive it every day, and in fact, even now when you drive, I drove one recently, and it really stands up to the test of time. It's got a terrific engine. It feels like it's got loads of integrity, and you can see out of it so easily, and it's narrow, and it's just a great road car even now.
I suspect the Honda engineers probably listened to what Ayrton said.
Yeah, you'd think so. If he says something, you would think every word he would go in.
Yeah, wonderful footage of him going around Suzuka.
Oh, isn't it brilliant? Was he taking the throttle with his white socks and his slip-on shoes on, and he just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what you're told, but away he goes. If it worked for him, it worked for me.
Yeah.
And there is the new one.
But there's a new one. So, like the old one, it has a V6, but this time it has two turbos, and unlike the old one, so there's one augmenting the engine at the back, and there are two at the front, one on each axle, and that can change the handling balance. Even though each front electric motor only has about 30 horsepower and the rear engine makes 500 horsepower, you really can sort of change the handling balance, because you could sort of torque back to the front, and if it's sliding a bit, you could use the front to help it pull out from the slide.
Yeah, we're into our first glance class, aren't we, that comes on the back of the Michelin supercar run. So these are new models, these are things that you won't have seen.
Indeed, yeah, I don't think we've seen the Maserati Levante in the UK before today, in fact, as it goes up the hill. That's Maserati's new SUV. The car market globally is doing okay, so I think that's 10 million year-on-year, but the SUV market about a quarter up as it was, or what it was before. And Maserati have been through a long period of selling sort of 3,000 to 5,000 cars a year, and a couple of years ago they said, you know what, we should really sell more than that. We should sell 50,000 cars a year. So what they need is a vastly expanded model range, and the Levante is part of that. I think that'll sell an awful lot of cars for them.
Yeah, and here's the latest version of the Volkswagen Golf GTI. The car that really kick-started the hot hatch phenomenon in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. The GTI Golf is 40 years old this year, in fact. So this Club Sport S was built partly to celebrate that. It's got no rear seats. It's got 306 horsepower, which is the first time a front-wheel drive Golf has ever got that much power. And it, as you can see on its stickers on the side as it goes around, it set a new front-wheel drive production car lap record around the Nürburgring Nordschleife of 7 minutes 49, which is impressive. It's really quick, isn't it? Yeah, it's really quick. It's all when I don't know if it's 300 horsepower, but when its driver will say, when you've only got 300 horsepower, you have to maintain an awful lot of corner speed to get that sort of time out of it. So they've developed a specific suspension setup for it. It's relatively soft, which allows them to attack curves massively. And you can ride over curves there, and it really stays incredibly settled. And but it still feels quite golfy. It's relatively refined, and it's not as twitchy as say a Renault Megane RS.
I did do a 748 a few years ago in my this year 1600 Mark 1 GTI, but it's quite a bit lighter, to be honest. So
it's not wrong. You're not wrong.
A kind of sky. They don't know what that is.
Well, they don't know, and they were even unsure about telling people what it is. But I can tell you, it's the return of Bristol. This is an engineering prototype. Not like the Bristols we came to know in its latter form before the company sort of disappeared, before the resurgence, when they were sort of 4-seat coupes.
Yeah, the boat fighter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But they're back, and this is they're back to this sort of Barchetta with a sort of BMW V8 engine. So it's quite an interesting new project.
talk about the swelling of SUV interest. Bentley have gone down the SUV exactly, with the Bentayga. So who's next to make an SUV?
Rolls-Royce will be next to make an SUV, but there are some people who say they will never do it. Ferrari and McLaren say they will never do it. But actually, for a company like Bentley, it makes quite a lot of sense. And I think what has tipped it off is the sales of top-end Range Rovers and top-end Audi Q7s and things like that. And by them, and somebody has realised that actually there may not be an upper limit to how much you can charge for an SUV as previously thought. The great Derek Bell driving that car with Nicky Shields alongside for ITV and the programme they will make on the Festival of Speed in the coming weeks. Five-time Le Mans winner and Bentley ambassador Derek Bell. I think this is very cool guy. Yes, they hope to make banging up the hill in the Bentayga. You guys have tested it on Autocar. We have. Is it good? It is good. Yeah, we gave it near for about 4.5 stars. It's terrific. At the moment, it comes only with the W12 engine, which is a really powerful one. So it's unbelievably fast. And I don't think there is a car that has been given a tougher brief, because being a Bentley, it has to be some kind of sports car. Being a Bentley, it has to be some kind of luxury car. That's hard enough to do on its own. But then, also being an SUV, it has to tow 3.5 tons in and out of muddy fields and hospitals and stuff like that. So I don't think there is a car on sale with a broader remit than that. And it pretty much nails it all round. On the screens here at the Festival Speed and live around the world on our live stream. Good to have your company. First glance to race. The Jaguar F-Pace. A lot has been written. In glowing terms about Jaguar's first SUV. And it's a good-looking thing. It is a good-looking thing. It goes well, really good thing, and it does. Yeah, that's the S, so that's sort of 375 horsepower V6, and it is quick. And Jaguar wants it to be an SUV for people who love driving, and there are not very many SUVs which are better to drive. I don't think any steer better, because they've developed in the UK, and they've driven a lot around the back roads of West England and Wales. Or the Jaguar. I think not many other manufacturers test cars on roads in quite a lot of fashion. Brief shots of the Tesla Model X. The